All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here this morning. I'm really excited to have you all here. We're going to go ahead and get started just because we have a bit to get through. I just want to preface and say that there are going to be a lot of demos during this presentation. So if anybody has any questions at any time, feel free to stop and raise your hand or go ahead and unmute and ask them. My name is Mary Seabury. I am the marketing manager here at Paragus Strategic IT. And today we're going to be talking a little bit how to use some of the Microsoft 365 tools that a lot of you probably already have access to, and just a little bit about how to kind of make those all work together just to make your lives a little bit easier and a little bit more organized going into 2026. So first, just want to talk a little bit about who Paragus IT is. So we are a 100% employee-owned managed service provider. We have offices in Hadley, Massachusetts and Worcester, Massachusetts. We provide both co-managed and fully managed services to our clients. And we operate as an organization's entire IT department, or we work with an internal team. We currently serve around 130 organizations spanning a wide range of industries. So a little bit about why you're here, and I mentioned this a little bit already, but we're essentially going to be talking about how to stay organized in 2026. So not more tools, not more meetings, and definitely not more chaos. Over the next hour, we're going to walk through a simple connected way to organize work using Microsoft 365 tools that you already likely have. So what changes when systems work? Something interesting happens. Work is calmer, even if there's just as much of it. People don't ask who owns this as often, and leaders don't need to do as many check-ins. And teams stop relying on memory to run the business. Systems aren't about control. They're about reducing friction. Today, we're going to talk a lot about how to use tools you must most likely already have in order to make your life easier and more organized. Here's where we're headed today. We'll talk about how to structure tasks in a way that your team will understand, how to centralize both team and personal tasks, how to collaborate without version chaos, and a little bit about how to automate repetitive work. And you do not need to be technical for any of this, so don't worry. Let's talk about the four tools that we're going to talk about today. So there's Planner, which is really great for shared work, Microsoft To Do, which is all about personal execution, Loop, which is about collaboration, and Power Automate, which kind of brings everything together. So you can think about this as one system, not four separate tools. And unfortunately, a lot of organizations kind of rely on them as separate tools. But today, my hope is that you're going to understand how they can all work together in one seamless way. So we're first going to talk about Microsoft To Do. And this is really where teamwork becomes personal. So To Do is kind of where individuals see everything that they're responsible for in one place. It's not a project tool, it's more of an execution tool. Most people already manage their tasks somewhere. It's usually in their head, it could be in their inbox. You could even have sticky notes on your desk. I've known some people that have just written things on whiteboards. That approach can work for a while, but oftentimes things get lost, they're incomplete, and To Do kind of replaces that with a single trusted task list. The value of To Do is that it centralizes work without giving you extra steps, no extra effort. It's tasks that are even assigned in Planner, which we'll get into in a little bit, flow into To Do automatically, which is really, really helpful. Even your flagged emails go right into To Do and become tasks. There's no duplicate entry and there's no need to manage multiple lists either. To Do is intentionally simple. It's designed to reduce mental load, not add process. And individuals choose what to focus on each day while staying aligned with team priorities. When it's used consistently, it can make you be more proactive instead of reactive, and it creates a clear connection between what your team expects and what you need to do next. So I'm actually going to go ahead and open To Do. So there's a few ways that you can access To Do. Um, if you open Outlook, there actually used to be on this left-hand side something called a checklist. That's actually been replaced with To Do, which is really beneficial. So you can see here, and we're going to get into what all of this means over the next couple of minutes. But I just wanted to show that this was one way to access To Do is actually right from Outlook. So if you're in answering emails and you need to go and see what you needed to do for answering emails or relevant tasks, this is really helpful because you actually don't have to leave Outlook at all. Um, you also have, if you have Microsoft downloaded onto your computer, you'll actually have it here either in your taskbar or if you just type into the search bar, you can type in To Do. and it will show up. And it's also accessible through Microsoft 365 online. So you'll log in online and then you'll be able to access it there as well. So I'm actually going to open up the desktop version just because it's a little bit easier than having it on Outlook, just for the purposes of this explanation. But I will show you the Outlook version, a few examples of that later. So when you open this, obviously there is a lot to do, a lot to look at. To do gives you a lot of ways to organize tasks. Microsoft is really great about that. But if you're not familiar with this, it can look a little bit overwhelming. So I'm actually just going to start with this default to-do list that I've created just to kind of shut out some of that noise. So you can see here that I have two test to-do lists that are showing up. So the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is how to create a task. And yes, Delcy did just mention that there is also the app on your phone. If you choose to want to have it on your phone, that is something that you can do. If you're traveling or you just want to have access to the things that you need to do on your phone, that's also something that's great to have access to. And Planner is also available on your phone. And we're going to talk about Planner a little bit later. So just back to the tasks. The first thing that you're going to see is you're going to see this right-hand sidebar pop up. So the first thing here is actually the title of the task. My recommendation for this is I think that you should give yourself a long enough task name that it gives you enough context, but also keep in mind that you do have other options in other areas within the task where you can actually give yourself more context. For example, right underneath, there's actually an add step button. So this allows you to add subtasks. So you can think about almost like when we're talking about agile or project management, you often have a task with a name, but you also have other things that have to happen for that task to get done. So for example, if I need to send out a webinar invite, I might need to do a task like create email. If you type that in and click enter, it will actually create the subtask for you. And so what you can do is you can come into this task and add as many subtasks as you like. And then once you create and finish all the subtasks, you can then check off, hopefully if you do it right, if you have enough, all the subtasks that you need, you can check them all off, and then you can finally check that top off your checklist. I do also want to mention right here, there is a star. This is a mark as important star. So if there are things in your to-do list, and you'll see mine in a few minutes, I tend to have a lot of tasks that are floating around from different areas. If there are a few that you want to mark as important, you can use the star to do that. I don't tend to use it. I did put some in the star as important just for the sake of this demo, but it all depends on how you work and how you want to use it. And then you'll also notice here on the sidebar, the second one is called important. So any task that you star as important is going to show up here. The next one is add to my day. I am going to talk about this a little more later when we actually get to that one. But essentially what you can do is you can go through your task list and you can add things to your day. So this is really helpful for if you have a chunk of time and you want to knock out some of your to-dos, you can add them to your day. And then if you put them in my day, let's say I put this webinar invite in my added to my day. If I don't complete this, it doesn't go away. It just goes back into the normal task list. But this is really, really helpful for making a concise list that, like I said, takes away some of that noise for you so you can just focus on what you need to do today, not the sometimes daunting list of tasks that you have to do. So if we go back to this, so right, like I said, this one's already added to my day. You don't necessarily need to do that. Again, you don't even have to use my day if you don't want. You can also just operate by the due dates, which we're going to get to in 2 lines down. But it's totally up to you and it's totally personal preference. Next is remind me. This is one that's really, really helpful, especially when you're first getting into using to do. If you are having a hard time setting up a cadence for looking at to do, this might be really helpful for you, just so that you remind yourself that you actually do have tasks in here that you do need to complete. And then also if you're just a really busy person, you might need a couple extra reminders. It's really nice because you can pick a day and time, and it also gives you a few preloaded suggestions so you can have it remind you later today, remind you tomorrow, next week. This is fully customizable. And it will show up on your desktop, and then it will also send you a message on Outlook as well. Next is repeat. So this one is really great for those of you who might have reoccurring tasks. So if you needed to look at do a certain audit for something within your role, you could set up a task, fill out the name, all of the sub steps. Um, you could even set a reminder in the due date, and then this can repeat for you daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, whenever you needed to. Even if you needed it to remind you Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it could do that for you. So again, those things that you know that you have to do on a repeated basis, this is really helpful for that because you don't have to rewrite everything for yourself every time you need to do it. Assign to. This one, we're going to talk about this a little bit. When you're in to do, it's really going to depend on your organization's, the way your organizations has like your sharing set up. Mostly when you're in to do, these are just going to be tasks that you're giving yourself. You will see that on this left-hand side, there is an assigned to me. Um, and I'm going to get into this a little bit, but the assigned to me are tasks that are coming from Planner. So that's when other people are assigning you things. But when we're talking about tasks, so these are all of my tasks, there's a lot of them. So definitely don't get overwhelmed by looking at this. So these are tasks that I've given myself. Things that I remember during the day that I need to give myself. But if you look at them, there's no assigned to. And that's because, like I said, it's my personal to-do list, so nobody else has access to this. And so when you're creating when you're assigning to on this, somebody has to have access to it. I would just say just steer away from this just because it can get a little confusing. Um, but we are going to talk about teams and channels in a little bit, and then that will help you understand a little bit more of the permissions and how Microsoft 365 works. But I wouldn't worry about this too much right now, as we're just talking about a personal use case for each of you. The next is add file. So again, this is another way to add context to the task. You can add photos, you can add a screenshot, you could add like a file, anything that you need for context for the webinar invite. For example, if I had copy, for example, if I had everything written out that needed to be in the email, that'd be a wonderful thing to add to this task so that when I'm going through and completing tasks, I can say, okay, I need to send out the webinar invite, I need to create the email. Okay, here's the copy in the file. Makes it really, really easy just for me to take it and just execute rather than kind of going and looking, okay, I need to go to my Outlook email and pull this. So this is really, really helpful, but again, not applicable for every single situation. And then the last one is add note. So this could just be further context. So it could be something like, um, this is for the January webinar, right? It's not necessarily a subtask because if it was, I would want to put it up here as a step. But it can be helpful for further context if needed. But again, you don't need to do that necessarily. And then one of the most important things is how to check something off. So when you complete something, you're just going to click this little circle right here. And I don't think you guys will be able to hear it, but it does create a nice little check noise, which is really, really satisfying when you're checking things off. So next I'm going to go to planned. So this is really, really helpful for giving you just an overview of what you might have that was due earlier, what's due tomorrow. You can think about it like looking at a calendar. So this just gives you insight into the different due dates for the tasks that you have. Again, definitely not necessary to use this view. Like I said, Microsoft just likes to give you a lot of different ways to look at the different tasks you have and ways that think might be helpful for you. It might create more stress for you, so you definitely don't have to use it. But it is always there as an option. So like I said, I do have some that are earlier. So like these are to-do dates these are things that I hadn't gotten to yet. So you can always change the due date if you want. So like I could kick this down the line and move it up. This one's actually not a real task for me, thankfully. This is just a test task that I was creating for this. But there are some actual ones in here that I do need to do. But yeah, so again, anything in red is going to be past due. But I do think that this view is helpful. You can always look at it Monday morning and be like, okay, what do I need to do for the week? Do I need to change any due dates? So I do think that is helpful. Next is assigned to me. So, like I said earlier, this is things that are assigned to you that are coming from uh, really anywhere across any of the Microsoft 365 applications and tools. So a lot of them for me are coming from Planner, and I am going to get into that in a little bit. But essentially, you can see here this is still a task, just like the one I showed you before, but you can see that it's coming from somewhere called Marketing L10 To-Dos. So we here at Paragus have a lot of teams. And so one of them is the marketing and sales team, which I'm a part of. I'm the marketing manager. And so we have biweekly L10s and we get to-dos from them. So when I get assigned a to do, it shows up here. So these are tasks that are assigned to me, which usually means that other people are depending on them. So this is definitely one that's really, really important to stay on top of. And you can always click here too, and I'm going to show you Planner in a little bit. Um, but you can always click on this and see where it's coming from. So if you're ever not recognizing a name, it might take a little bit to get used to the planner names, but you can always click on this just to see where it's coming from. And I do want to mention before we get into Planner, anytime you check off something in To Do, it's automatically going to check it off in Planner as well, and vice versa, which is really, really helpful because you don't want to be checking one thing off here and then it's not getting checked off anywhere else. And so Microsoft is really great about that. When you check off something in one place, it is going to get checked off in the other. Like I said, you can think of To Do as just, it's more of a streamlined version of things that are assigned to you. So you're not going to see things that are assigned to anybody else, if that makes sense. So like I said, under here this is the planner that it's actually coming from. And you can also see that like I created this one, which is Q1 2026 priority. So this is just a demo. And so yeah, this view is just really helpful for seeing all the things that you need to do that are assigned to you. The next one is flagged email. This one is really, really helpful. So in Outlook, I'm actually going to show you how to flag an email. So when you open up Mail, you can see that I'm using the new Outlook. I know some people like the old Outlook, but this is on the new Outlook. Um, there are three buttons here at the top right of an email. This is to mark as unread. This is the flag, which we were talking about, and then this is a pin. So I tend to flag and pin things just because for me, I'm more of a visual person. So if you just flag something, it's actually not going to go up to the top of the screen. For me, that's a little bit of an issue because sometimes if I see the flag and the pin, meaning it's at the top of my Outlook, it's definitely going to be high urgency for me. Again, everything that I'm saying from a personal anecdote perspective might not work for you. So you definitely have to take some time to figure out what works for you. But for me, anytime I flag something, I also pin it. Just from a visual perspective, I do like to see it. So when you flag something, it's actually going to show up in Microsoft To Do. So it does show that some of them are earlier. So it says I have 245. That is not the case. There's not 245 that are open. I have, in my lifetime of working here, have flagged 245 emails. But you can see that the ones that are not checked off, you can click in here and it shows you what you need to do. Meaning it shows you what the actual email is. And then you can add this to your day as well if you wanted to. So if you wanted to do some tasks today and you also wanted to answer some emails, you could use the add to my day button and you could create a day of answering 3 emails and completing 5 tasks. So this is really, really helpful. And again, is just another way to organize things. And I think that's it on that one. And then tasks. So like I said, these are more so tasks that are personal. So these aren't coming from anywhere else. These are tasks that you assign yourself that are showing up here. So when I think of them in terms of priority, assigned to me is definitely a high priority because like I said, usually it's somebody else that's counting on me to get that task done. Flagged email is somebody else also depending on me to get something done because they're waiting for a response from me. And then tasks are things that I typically like to chip away at when I have time. And so, again, Microsoft gives you a lot of great options for how to categorize these things. You can also create your own list. This is really helpful for if you have tasks that have, you might be getting a task. You might have I'll use, for example, webinars. I run all the webinars here. I send out all of the emails and everything like that. Um, so when we're talking about a webinar invite, there might be an email that's associated with it. There might be a task that gets assigned to me from one of our departmental meetings. Then I also might have a personal task that I can create. So like I did here, I created a webinar to-do list. And so I can actually move this into the webinar to-do list. So if I want to have everything in one place instead of broken out like Microsoft does, I can. And that's really helpful for, like I said, having tasks that are associated with one topic that you don't want to be siloed. You can make a to-do list for the or a list for those, and then you can see them all in one place. Um, and then I do believe I'll show you that on Planner. There is also tags that are available. That can be helpful as well. But yeah, so really there's infinite ways to organize this. And it's really, really helpful. So next I am just going to jump over to Planner. So I tend to use Planner through Teams just because it's easier for me. Like I said before, you can get Planner on your phone. You can also access it via the Microsoft 365 online. Um, the way I access it is I just have it pinned on this left-hand side. So it's called Planner. There's a little heart shape. Um, and when you open this I do just want to mention briefly, um, there can be there's a lot of complexity to this in terms of how your organization has Microsoft 365 set up. And I don't want to get too far into it, but if anyone has any questions at all, certainly let me know. And Delcy and I would be happy to answer it. But I do just want to briefly mention the way the Paragus is set up is we have what are called teams. And so, like I mentioned a little bit before, there's different teams for different initiatives and also different like teams that we actually have. So the marketing and sales department, operations, Paragus by Cookbook team, which that's our internal processes. And there's a lot that are hidden, which we have one for every client, etc. So when we talk about permissions, some of you might have the ability to create a new team within your organization. Here at Paragus, we as employees don't have the opportunity to create teams, just because if all 60 of us had the ability to create teams, there would be a lot of teams. And that creates a lot of extra noise. And so we have a team for everything that we need. And at any point, if we ever need to create a new team, we're always welcome to bring that up to leadership and have it not created. But people tend to create teams because they think they're great, and most of the time we don't need them because we already have one that could be used. So I did just want to preface that. But depending on your organization, you may yourself have permissions to create a team, or you may already have teams created, or you could talk to whoever's in charge of your Microsoft 365 or SharePoint and ask if you could have access. But it's really, really helpful for keeping things organized. So I did just want to briefly show for the marketing and sales department, like I said, we have those L10 meetings, which are level 10 meetings, which is based off of EOS, which is the operating system that we use. So this is really helpful from a planner and to-do perspective because I know exactly where things are coming from when they're from my marketing level 10s. So you can see up here that the to-dos live here. So they do live here as a channel, but they also are a tab on the channel. They also do live in Planner. So I'm usually the to-do taker, I call myself. So when we're in a meeting, I will be listening, and Delcy will usually say, "Hey Mary, can you take that to do for Gainer or for me or for Mary or whoever?" And I will take that as we're doing the meeting. This allows us to stay focused on the meeting, make sure that we're capturing everything. And then, like I said, everything is going to go into Planner and also into To Do, into that Assigned to Me tab. So it's really, really helpful just so that you can stay focused on the meeting. It's really, really great. So, like I said, it does exist here as a tab, but it does also exist in Planner. So Microsoft likes to have things that are across various channels. So like I said, the to-dos will show up in that channel, they'll show up in Planner, and they'll show up in To-Do. Again, it just gives you options for how to see things. So you can see here, I did have it pinned, but sometimes it's finicky and it likes to go away. So if you go to My Plans, You can see I have quite a few. A lot of these are from, like I said, various teams. So you can see in shared with, you can say I have my own team, which is my personal team. Um, we have like our onboarding team. We have a lot of teams. So this one is the one I care about. This is the marketing L10 to dos, and I'm actually going to click pin because again, a lot of noise. I don't necessarily want all these teams to show up all the time. So I like to just keep the ones that I need pinned. So if we go into marketing L10 to-dos, this plan is identical to the one I just showed you guys. It just lives in two different places. So you can see that there are still all of the tasks that I need to do here. So we have what are called to-dos, and these are called buckets here at the top. And they're really helpful for organizing. So we have to-dos. These are things for us. And again, this is all personal to us, but it's totally customizable. To-dos are things that we need to get done in the short term. So they're typically like 1 to 2 weeks, is what we like to kind of describe them as. Then we have what are called long-term to-dos. So these are things that might be something that's not super urgent, but that we want to get done over the next couple of months. Cascading messages. This is an EOS term that we use when we need to share messages with other people that aren't necessarily in our meeting. So from a marketing perspective, it could be like letting our leadership team know that we created a new piece of collateral to share with clients, something like that. That's just an example. And you can add as many buckets as you want. There are also different views for Planner. So you can click grid. This to me is not my favorite, but for some people it might be. I do like the board view a lot. And this one's really nice. This is a schedule. So you can actually look at a calendar view and see where things are showing up when they need to be done. And this might be really helpful, like I said, for sitting down on a Monday morning, looking at what you need to get done for the week. You can even adjust the dates if you need to, if you feel like, oh, I don't think that I can get all that done this week. You can always do that. And then charts. Uh, this this one's pretty daunting, but it shows you how many tasks that are here, and then the priority, and then I cannot show you the timeline version because Microsoft has locked that to me unless I pay more money. So I cannot show you the timeline version, but I do believe that that one is just more of, I mean, it's a timeline. So yeah. And then so obviously this one is from our level 10 meeting, but and this one is very, very high level. So this is a very, very simple planner, but I just wanted to show you how in depth you can really get with these. Microsoft Planner is typically used by project managers. A lot of the times when they're doing very, very complex projects. So this is just a sample planner that I made just to show really how in depth you can get with this. This was actually a tool I had looked at. Like I said, I manage a lot of our marketing uh, internal initiatives and external initiatives. And so this was actually something that I was looking at when looking for a project management software. And it has a lot of capabilities that you can use for that. And it's really, really helpful. So obviously the buckets on this one here at the top are a little bit different. So we have backlog, this week, in progress, waiting and blocked, and done. So again, these are going to be totally dependent on the project that you're working on, what you need to use it for. Um, they're totally customizable for you, but it really just helps you break everything down. So again, for example, this week, right? So we have a few tasks in the this week bucket. The this week bucket name doesn't actually impact the due dates. It's just a title. So it doesn't impact any of the actual things that you can change within the tasks. So this is a task. So I want to open it up and show you because it is a little bit different than to do. Like I said before, the to-dos on Planner do sync with Microsoft To Do. So if I add one here and assign it to myself, it will show up in my to-do. If I create a task here and assign it to Delcy, it's not going to show up in my to-do because it's not relevant to me, but it will still show up here. So this one happens to be assigned to me. So these were the tags that I was talking about earlier. These tags are specific to the planner. So I created a few just for demo purposes. So there's a urgent tag, internal, waiting, external, and for your information. We don't tend to use these a ton in terms of our marketing department planner, but I do know that we do use them for our career ladder, which is an internal it's our internal way to get a bonus. And I do know that we do use tags on those. And again, totally specific to whatever you're using it for. It might be super helpful. It might create more noise. So I just had these set up just so you could see what they would look like. So you can also see here that this is something that's not in Microsoft To Do. So you can see that there's a not started, in progress, and completed. And so this is where a little bit of the project management comes in, where you can show how far along a task is. So if I change this to in progress, you can see here that it adds a small icon that tells somebody it's in progress, which is really helpful. Priority. So not only do we have the ability to tag something as urgent, you can actually just set the priority as urgent. And then again, it will create an icon here on the outside bucket. Excuse me, the task. I'm just gonna I'll leave it as medium. Then we have start date. So this is another one that doesn't show up on Microsoft To Do. So this could be helpful for when you need to know when to start something. Sometimes for people, it's hard when you're just looking at the due date because you could be like, oh, I have till next Friday. There's a question in the chat. Do you get to these options by clicking on add task? Yes, I did. Jackie just asked if I got to these options by clicking on add task. Yes. So if you click add task, let me just see really quick. So I just do test and then you click the three dot, yeah, so you have to type in and click enter. And so you just put a brief name and then you can actually go in and create and access this list of all of these more in-depth points. So yes, Jackie. Yeah. Um, so yeah, so the start date, like I said, some people when they look at due dates, I know I'm like this sometimes. If I just see the due date as the 30th, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have 9 days. I have so much time. I don't have so much time. So the start date is really helpful for just keeping yourself accountable, giving yourself more of a runway to get something done. Again, if you don't need to use it, you don't have to. Repeat is the same as to do. So you can repeat a task daily, weekly, monthly, whatever you need. Notes is also the same as to do. So any context, further context that you want to add here is great. So this has a different name. It's called checklist here. On to do, it's called steps, but it's the same thing. And I do just want to show you. So this is the standardized onboarding checklist. I'm just going to write test here for the checklist. So then if I go into to do, keep accidentally clicking that. So if I go to assign to me, and it should be the standardized onboarding checklist, it might take a minute to sync. That is the only thing. Like it's not showing up quite yet. But I bet if I shut that and then reopen it, it should show up. I don't know how often it syncs. So there you go. So I started it and I reopened it and it was there. So it does live update, which is really great. So I just added this in Planner, but it showed up in To Do, which is really helpful. So I'm just going to go back to Planner. Attachments is the same. It's called attachments here. It's called file on To Do, but it's the same thing. So if you add an attachment here, it will show up in To Do, which is awesome. And then comments. So this one is different than To Do. So like I said, To Do is obviously your own personal view. Comments is great for if you have a planner that's shared with multiple people. So for example, like my marketing planner, I could write a comment on a task and I can actually, I believe, let me just see. I'm not sure if you can actually mention people. So you can't, but if I believe what it will do, and Delcy, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I do believe that if there was a task that was assigned to Delcy as well, I do believe that if I comment on it, I think it will notify him via Outlook that there was a comment added. So that can be really helpful for if you have a clarifying question or just want to add a comment to it. It will notify both people who the task is assigned to. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna.
it's all dependent on how you set up your notifications. Like for me, I'm getting push notifications on my computer every time you do what you're doing,
Mhm.
including adding comments or adding tasks. But you could configure your notifications to be emails. You could configure them to not be on at all. It's up to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, a lot of this stuff is completely dependent on what you want it to do. So however you have that set up, but it will only be relevant to the people that the task is assigned to. And then I believe that was all I wanted to mention here. Again, there is the share button. So this was created on my team, which is able to be accessed by Delcy, our CEO, our COO, our HR coordinator, and then our Paragus bot, which is an internal bot that we have set up. So again, depending on your organization's permissions, this might you might have to get different permissions to be able to invite people, or you may have to set up some teams. But either way, there's a lot of resources online, and we're also, from a client perspective, we're happy to help with that as well. And then I just want to transition into Loop. So this is a bit of a newer feature from Microsoft. So this was launched to consumers in 2024. This is one that actually through preparing for this webinar was something that I learned a lot about that I didn't know about before. Loop is really, really great for meetings, taking notes, coming to conclusions, even like deciding where you want to go to lunch with your coworkers. I'll show you how to use that in a Teams chat. Um, but the best thing about Loop is that it has what are called components. Components allow you to copy and paste something into a Teams chat, an email, and it will live populate, which when I first learned that, that kind of blew my mind because you certainly can share things like a Word document that updates, but you can't see it live updating on the actual like tool and on the email. So I'm just going to show you briefly. So this is just a test task box that I made. This is called, let me backtrack a little bit. So when you enter Loop, this is what you'll see. What I'm in right now is called a workspace. And so there are different templates that you can use when you create a workspace. I can show you briefly. Um, so this can be Mary's workspace. Um, and then this is where I can share it with people if I want. So I could share it if I was having a meeting with 3 people, I could share it with those 3 people. And then you click create. So then you're given a lot of templates to choose from. A lot of these are really, really fun. So there's like a one-on-one meeting. It's being a little slow. It's not loading. There's a lot of templates with a lot of different live components. So that's why it's being a little slow. There we go. So one-on-one meeting. So it gives you a great template. You can set the date, that time. Here's the agenda. Here are the notes that you can take during it. Here's some feedback during it and any relevant links. You wanted to use this for project planning? You also could as well. I do know that a lot of, I know I keep talking about project management a lot, but I do know that a lot of companies do use Loop for this. Um, and so these are all templates, so you can personalize these as you want. I'm going to take, sure, I will take this one. So you can also add different pages. So you can add as many pages as you'd like, which is really awesome. So I'm just going to go back to the project brief. So again, this is obviously a template, so a lot of this information isn't relevant to me, but I do just want to show something that I think is really, really cool. Um, Team members, Mary, marketing, Worcester. All right, I'm just going to leave it like this for the sake of this. So if you click on this, the 6 dots up in the top left-hand corner, you actually can click Create Loop Component. So if I click that, it'll highlight for a second. Kim just asked how to start a template. Yeah, so if you go up here to the top left-hand corner, you can click Create New, and then you can click Page. And then Page or Workspace, it will look the same. But down here in the bottom, there's a template gallery. So if you just click on that, Kim, these are where all of those templates live. Um, and it will show up when you're creating a workspace or when you create a page. So we're going to go back to that component because I do just want to show you guys that it does. Oops. Hold on one second. I think I did. Hold on just one second. I'm just going to restart Teams really quick. Okay, there we go. So I think I was in here in, yeah, this one. Okay. So for this one, let's say for example, I was working on these were meeting note or these were notes that I was having. I was having a meeting with somebody and Mary wasn't able to be there, but I don't know what her core working hours are. So let's say I needed to get that from Mary. So if I just click on this and create click loop component, it's going to highlight purple. And then once it's done, you can actually go into Outlook. I'm just going to create a new email just so I can show you guys, and I'm going to send this to myself. Uh, Loop component. Hi, Mary. How many core hours do you work? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click paste. Oops, just hold on one second. Didn't quite grab it for me. Should be able to create loop component. Oh, and then it's right here. So you click copy component. So let me just do that again, just because it's a little confusing. So you have to actually click create component. And then once it's a component, so it says component two, component one, I actually accidentally created two, but that's okay. You actually are going to click copy component in that top right-hand corner. And then you're going to click copy link. So now when I go here and I click Control V, it's actually going to pull that component straight from Loop. Now, this isn't just me copy and pasting it. This is actually a live component that I can actually edit, which is, like I said, completely mind-blowing to me. So I just want to show you, I'm going to try and show you this at the same time. I'm just going to minimize these just so you can see it. I'm just going to do some quick IT magic there. So you can see that I'm actually going to send this to myself really quickly. It's going to take a minute to come in, but I just want to show you how this live edits. So obviously here on this left-hand side, this is the loop um, workspace. So when this email comes through to me, this is POV, I'm on the other end of it, right? Let me just make this a little bit smaller so you can see. So if I type in here, you can actually see on this left-hand side, and I hope this is showing up great for you guys. So when I'm clicking on this email in the right-hand side and typing something, it's actually live populating on loop, which, like I said, this is a fairly new thing, and I think it's really, really great for a lot of people for a lot of different use cases. But it's essentially allowing live editing. Um, so when somebody is editing it, you can see it on your end in the loop space, which is really great for collaboration or meetings or anything like that. So we'll just say Delcy, CEO, Adley, infinite hours. And then if I minimize this, it's going to show you that I just filled that out. So Delcy, CEO, Hadley, infinite. So again, a lot of different use cases for this one, but really, really helpful for collaboration. Again, this isn't actually something that we use a ton, but like I said, now that I've learned more about it, I think it is something that we're going to start using a little bit more because I do think it's really, really, really helpful for a lot of different scenarios. And then the next thing I want to transition to briefly, just because we're almost at time, is I did just want to briefly show workflows. So this is something that is a little bit more in depth, and we are going to be sending out a link to a survey at the end and it's just talking about what webinars we're going to run for 2026. And if workflows specifically, I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but if this is something that people are interested in learning more about, we're definitely open to running a webinar just about workflows. But I do just want to show this one. This one is really, really simple. So when you open workflows, I'm just going to go home really quickly just so I can show you this again. Home. Oh, one sec. Here's workflows. Okay. So you can see any workflows that are created, their name, the status if they're on, last time they were modified, owners, the type, team and channel. And then you can see here at the bottom, there's actually a lot that are created by teams that are templates. So these are ones that essentially are click and play or plug and play. So you can click on any of these, and I'm actually going to show you this follow-up on a message when I just set this up, and I'm actually really liking it. So I'm just going to show you what this one looks like. So you would click on it, and then it would open. Um, and it's essentially going to look like this. So when you open this, this is just a dashboard. This isn't super helpful. It does show you the runtime, things like that. That's not super applicable. But if you click edit in the top left-hand corner, you can actually see how the workflow is set up. Now, again, this is going to look really, really complicated, and I would love to get more into the specifics of it. And I do think we are going to run a webinar on it if enough people want to see it. But this was actually one of those templates that was already created. So teams in Microsoft itself are obviously very intelligent. It already knows how to set up the workflow to notify you about following up on a message. I did add one thing to this workflow at the end. I gave myself a to do. So all I did was click this little add button, click new step, and then I just typed in to do, Microsoft to do, and then all I did was click add a to do. The due date, and this is where it gets a little complicated, and so I'm not going to go into super specifics, but you just want to select the variables, which is the delay until time. Then I didn't set up a reminder or anything like that, and then I just clicked save. I have already done it up here, so I am just going to delete this step just because I don't need to be given a to do twice. But I do just want to show you briefly how this one works. So I actually had a message from Cole yesterday. He was just asking, he was like, hey, I have a quick HubSpot question. And I was like, hey, I'm prepping for the webinar. Like, is it urgent? He was like, oh, it's not urgent. I just noticed that HubSpot is changing something. And it's throwing me for a loop. So I said, okay, perfect. Follow up on a mess. This was at like 3 o'clock yesterday. So it's like, okay, follow up on a message. And so this is from that workflow I just created. So I selected the due date, selected a time that I wanted it to remind me. I picked 7 a.m. this morning, right when I got in. And then I didn't give myself any notes. I just needed the reminder. Then I just click submit. So the way that this showed up was here on the left-hand side in my activity in Teams. I got a notification from Workflows that says, follow up on a message. And that has my name in parentheses. And actually, I did write in the notes, and I said, help Cole and explain and Rich. So this is really nice just because it showed me that I needed to respond to Cole. And I had actually responded to him after I assigned that task, but I do still need to respond to him. So that's good. So again, just a really, really brief intro into workflows. And I do just want to show you one other one that is much, much simpler. So this is one that Delcy actually created. That what this does is when a task is completed, specifically for us in the marketing L10 team, so the level 10 team, when a task is completed, and then you can see the group ID is marketing and sales, the plan ID and planner are synonymous. It's the marketing L10 to-dos. Apply to each. And then these are what are called tokens. And again, I won't get into the specifics of them. It can be a little confusing, but essentially he just has it set up so that when something is marked as completed, it will post a message in the channel. So I just want to show you briefly. So it shows you, yo, 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 Delcy B. This is customized. This is not Microsoft making this. This is Delcy's humor. Yo, 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 Delcy Bean just made this to do it to done. And so it essentially shows you that something is done in the posts. And so this is just helpful for this is more of a visibility workflow, just showing you when something is done, which is really, really nice. It is still checked off here, but it's just adding a little bit of a layer of fun, and we love to make things fun, just with this message showing up. So I do just want to transition back over to the PowerPoint and just kind of wrap this up as I do want to leave time for questions. Um, so obviously that was a lot of information about these different tools. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, but if you start making small steps into kind of identifying how you can use each of the tools, it can really, really help you in terms of your, oh, I think I skipped a slide. Copilot. So just briefly, I do just want to say from an AI perspective, Copilot is Microsoft's AI, and it does help in terms of it can do a lot for you. So Copilot is kind of what turns like messy intent into structured work. So it can create tasks, it can summarize tasks for you, it can create flows for you, and it kind of can just help you stay oriented as things are changing. So in Planner, Copilot can take like a high level outcome and generate actionable tasks inside of a plan. Um, it can do a lot in terms of just creating things for you. You can give it a prompt, ask it to create you a task for a reoccurring task for, let's say, checking, for me, like checking HubSpot. And Copilot can create that. It will show you the task and then ask if it's correct. And then you can accept it. And then it will translate into your to do, the app. And there are a lot of things it can do, Delcy. I don't know if you want to speak to any of the specific things just because you have a little more experience.
I think as it relates to this topic, what I look at as Copilot is it can help you navigate everything that Mary just showed you. So if you wanted to make one of those really complicated Power Automates that she kind of briefly put up on the screen, instead of having to learn how to do all that, Microsoft Power Automate actually has a Copilot feature where you can just describe the automation you want to create. For example, I think somebody earlier in the chat said, I want to create a planner that multiple people are sharing that has recurring tasks that automatically get assigned. If you explained that to Copilot, it very well may just be able to build it for you, a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of adjustment, but it would get you probably 80 to 90% of the way there, if not all the way.
Yeah. And again, if this is something that people are really, really interested in, definitely click that link that Delcy dropped in the chat. We would be happy to do a webinar, maybe just on Microsoft Copilot and Power Automate and workflows. If a lot of people have a lot of questions on that for sure. Yeah, so just connecting these all back together, like I mentioned, it's really great when you can use all of these tools together because it really does just help you stay more organized, save time, and just creates a little bit more clarity. Everyone, all of us are so busy, and so being able to use the things that you already have is just fantastic, and will just help you to do your job well, and hopefully take a little bit of stress off of you too. And obviously, in January, this is the time of setting goals, and you know kind of taking a new look into the year. So this is the perfect time to set things up. It's it's going to take a little bit of time just to get yourself into a rhythm. But it is definitely that is super beneficial in the long term. Um, so yeah. I hope everybody enjoyed that presentation. We are just going to offer, I am just going to open it up for questions. I did just want to briefly mention, we do have that survey that Delcy put in the chat. This is really going to help us shape the 2026 webinar schedule. So if there's anything that you want to see, definitely click that link and fill out that survey. And then I do just want to mention, last year we did a webinar on SharePoint back in April, and it was one of our most attended webinars, and there were a lot of questions that came from it. And we decided that we want to do a follow-up webinar for it. So it's more so going to be about setting it up and a little bit more in depth than we went last time. So that link is also live on our website right now. So if you're interested in signing up, definitely do so. And as always, I'll be sending out those 3 webinar invitations. So I am just going to open it up for questions. If anybody has any, feel free to unmute, and Delcy and I will do our best to answer them. And if nobody has any questions, we'll give you back 5 minutes. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you everyone so much. We will be sending out this recording and definitely keep an eye out for future webinar invites. And thank you so much.